So Bobby's internet has failed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go live for this 1 p.m. slate where we go over the plays, go over the builds, and all this stuff. I'm not sure how long I can be on here. I have some stuff that's probably coming up that I have to leave for. But in the meanwhile, let's see what we can do. Let me just post up here that we are live, even though they get a notification. Anyway, I want to do that anyway. So it is another slate that has quite a bit of chalk that you're going to have to figure out how to avoid if you want to play GPPs, and how you want to, kind of live with if you want to play cash. So the Cardinals, once again, for me at least, rate to be, pretty clearly the best play. And some of them still remain cheap. And on a 6-game slate, it's going to be even worse as far as the chalk goes. So that is a decision you're going to have to make. And then what's interesting, I guess, for me is the pitching, sort of. So we should really just try to go through all these options here, and we are gonna start with the DraftKings. So you have like about Valdez and C's are going to garner just all of the ownership, I would think. They have like 50%. I project them for 50% each, and it could be worse. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're that much better. Look, from a raw points perspective, sure. But if you want to screw around, I don't think that these other guys are much worse. Like Gibson, Plesac, even Merrill Kelly. I think all those guys are they're definitely not as good, but it's not as if they're unplayable. I'm not getting to some of them. I'm not getting to the pitchers in the Colorado game. I'm not getting to Cabrera from the Miami side. I'm not getting to the Detroit guy. I'm not getting to Greinke. I'm not getting to the bottom of the barrel. Whatchamacallit, what's his name? The Texas guy. I'm not getting to Brewbreaker or whatever it is. So I am going to be sticking with those, either Cease Valdez or that next level, which is Gibson, Plesac, and or Merrill Kelly. But the real question is what to do with the Cardinals, right? Because they rate, not surprisingly, I mean, significantly better than everybody else. And their ownership is just going to be just kind of, pretty disgusting. So you have to really figure out what you want to do here. It's a 6-game slate, I guess what I would say is that I'd prefer to not play the game at all than to play Colorado. I wonder if that makes any sense. For me, I think that the guys, the teams from the non-Coors games are close enough to Colorado that I would rather play those guys than play Colorado from that game. I think that the Colorado ownership, although it's not as high as St. Louis, it's close enough to those other teams that I would probably avoid them. And the other thing I would mention is, again, this is one of those things that's already factored into projections and all this stuff, but German Marquis is not the worst, especially against against righties. He's not bad. And Cardinals are usually better against lefties. So these are reasons why you could possibly fade the Cardinals, among other reasons. I mean, look, you could fade them because they're chalk. You know, one thing I would say is that I really don't think that you can play Cease, Valdez with Cardinals in GPPs. You just put a lot of pressure on yourself to get everything else absolutely perfect. And even if you get it perfect, you might be splitting it. So it's a tough scene to go chalk on chalk. So if you are going to stack the Cardinals, I don't think that you could. I actually don't think you could play either of them. I mean, I think you probably want to play, you know, something else like a Merrill Kelly Gibson combination or something, and just hope they outscore those other guys. Another interesting question, if you want another interesting approach, if you play the Cardinal, if you don't want to play the Cardinals, or if you play the Cardinals, is what you could do is use a secondary stack from the teams that Cease and Valdez are going against. So if you do want to play the Cardinals, I would recommend, you know, you could certainly play Cardinals with, say, Texas, you know, or you could go Cardinals with KC. I think that's the way you could play the Cardinals. As a matter of fact, I think that could be the only way I play the Cardinals. So, okay, so here are the two ways I play the Cardinals. Either with a pitcher with neither Cease nor Valdez, or a secondary stack with Texas or Kansas City. I think I'm very comfortable with that assessment, actually. I think that that's the way that I would approach a slate like this, is just to summarize. Okay, so this is DraftKings. If you don't want to play the Cardinals, then we can have some fun. We'll talk about these other stacks in a minute. But if you do want to play the Cardinals, I think you either have to play a pitcher combination with neither Valdez nor Cease, or pair the Cardinals with Texas or Kansas City. I think that's the way to go. Now, if you were going to fade the Cardinals, then we could have some fun. I think, as I mentioned before, that Colorado would be the first team I would fade from the non-Cardinal stacks. That's just my opinion. They do rate a little bit higher than these others, but they're going to be owned as well. And I think that the choice is going to be between Cleveland, Arizona, and Houston. I think all these teams are pretty close. You know what I mean? Philly, the White Sox. You know what I mean? I don't think I would go down. Now, these guys are going to be good values, like Detroit and Pittsburgh. We'll go to the values in a minute, but White Sox, Philly, I guess I have no problem with any of these. Let me look at these guys from a value perspective. Hold on, let me just see. And then we're going to run some builds and see. So I'm getting Miami and Detroit as values, which I guess makes sense. But, boy, are these guys really going to put up enough points? You know, are Miami and Detroit honestly going to put up enough points to get there? The one thing I will say is that if you do play Miami or Detroit, it's sort of similar to my recommendation of playing Texas and Kansas City, right? Miami, Detroit are probably facing the two kind of most natural pivots, right? I think Plesac and Gibson are going to be the next highest owned. So I think that playing Miami and Detroit gets you a little leverage over those builds. Yeah, you know, I have to say, Willie, I was expecting my projections to be a little bit higher on Cabrera, but they're just not. That's the best I could describe it. And I don't want to drill down into why, and I don't want to listen. If it was close, I would replace the projections and like kind of tweak them. But it's really just, for whatever reason, just not even close for me. So I'm probably just not going to play him. The other thing I really would recommend you not do. Listen, you guys play what you want. I wouldn't play Greinke. You know, I wouldn't do it. If you run enough builds, you're probably going to get to him because he's 5K, and he could probably get you 12 fantasy points or something like that, or maybe even a few more, whatever. But I think you just need a little more upside than that. You know, I think I would almost rather you play one of these rookies, one of these other cheapos than Greinke. At least those other guys have at least some K upside. You know, I really wouldn't do it. I wouldn't play Greinke. Um, the other thing I noticed is that I think, do I have to redo this? No, I have this on. So one thing about the Houston side is that Alvarez is out, which, well, on the one hand makes them more affordable. You know, on the other hand makes them less likely to get there, right? I mean, you can't have everything. But let's put it out there. It's who does everybody like here? I mean, Cleveland, Houston, Philly. I mean, these just seem like they're three real teams. You know, these teams can actually like hit the ball. You know, I mean, we can talk about Arizona and Pitt and Miami and Detroit's and these like cheapos, but you'd have to believe that Cleveland, Philly, and Houston actually have the chance to put some runs up, right? So if you're going to do, like, say, a full 5-man stack in lieu of St. Louis, I think that's probably what you're going to want to do is play Philly, play Houston, or play Cleveland, and then play only one of Valdez or Cease. I think that you can get away with. And in that respect, I mean, you think about it. If you play Cleveland, then you probably can play Plesac, right? Because then you have a little correlation there. If you play Houston, that should be the one where you play Valdez, you know, and not play Cease, because there's no, you know, you take the correlation there. And if you play Philly, then that should be the one where you play what's his name, Gibson. You get a little correlation there. And on the Arizona side, as Justin is pointing out, if you want to use them, I think those are very. I think it's very reasonable to play Merrill Kelly there. You get a little pitcher correlation there. I think it matters on a slate like this, on a small slate. I think those 4 points, you know, you get that win alongside the hitting. I think it is going to matter. Because remember, you're banking on Valdez and Cease, like one of them not getting there. You know, if both of them get there, I mean, if they both put up 30, then you know. Then you're either going to need to have made like weird Detroit plays, you know what I mean? Because the other thing that's going to happen if those two get there is all the St. Louis cheapos, they could come in and ruin your life, you know? So I do think that if you play a pitcher, it'd be nice if you can get the 4 points out of them, especially with these projections being so low on some of these guys. You know, it's not as if like if Gibson is projected to score like 100 fantasy points, you know, he's probably pretty low. As is Plesac, as is maybe Merrill Kelly's. Merrill Kelly's actually put up some performances. So I think those 4 points for those guys are going to matter. I don't think it matters as much for, say, like Cease. I mean, Cease, we've seen this so many times. Cease put up 30 fantasy points, you know, in a loss. You know, he just he's out there for 100 pitches, and you know, he'll strike out 9 guys, you know, whatever. Okay, so I guess what I want to do then is we should have some fun, because I just built dummy lineups. So why don't we do this? Why don't we build some lineups and see what actually we get? Okay, so let's I'll share my screen. Share screen. And we'll go through it. You know, we'll go through the actual process and things like that. So I think I do have the. Yeah, exactly, K9. So let's and then I'll run a FanDuel one too. Let's do I got in too late for FanDuel. There's really no tournaments left. So let's upload my sheets right from, I guess this is my own file here. And we're going to make sure to exclude unlisted players. Let's make sure all these guys got in there. Okay, even we got the Cabrera one in. I wasn't getting Cabrera in here. And we're going to build, and let's build, what do we want to build? Let's first build, well, you know what? Not many people play 150 here, so let's not build for 150. We'll build 20 max settings, and let's build 20 lineups. Actually, you know what? Let's build 100 lineups, even though we're only 20 max, just to see what we get. And we're going to get a pool, remember, of 500 lineups to choose from once we start doing some tweaking, which we can do, you know. And this is not what I'm going to end up. I mean, I'm probably going to, you know, probably going to split it like 1240, 1245 and just redo this on my own. But this is exactly my process. So let's just do it. So even though, again, we're playing, we're going to build 150 lineups, even using the 20 max setting, which I think is okay. I wonder if we're going to get a lot of money left on the table here today. I don't think so, but it's interesting to note that when you use SaberSim, especially on FanDuel, you get a lot of lineups leaving a lot of money on the table, especially when you set builds with max correlation. Because I don't know if you guys remember when I've described this phenomenon before. What happens is, and this is kind of a weird little tweak, a little glitch, not even a glitch, whatever, with SaberSim, is that when you set it to high correlation, it makes some weird decisions for you. So let's just say, for example, you have, you know, 4 Cardinals and then say 4 Rockies and 3 Rockies, and it's a choice between the 8th guy to put in like the hitting positions, right? It would prefer to play like a 2K Colorado guy to fill out the stack than play a 4,300 one off of like Acuna or something like that. Because you set the sliders to go for max correlation. So you're going to get like all these lineups that have like 1,800, 1,900 left on the table. And you have no one to blame but yourself, right? You set the thing for max correlation, you know? So you set for max correlation, it's just going to give you the 2K guy with, you know, a 2% chance of doing anything from the same team, as opposed to say $4,300 Mike Trout, right? That's just the way it goes. If you don't like that, then you could set the sliders a little differently. Okay, so this is interesting. When I make this build, first of all, it would be interesting to note that Valdez, it's almost locked in. You know, they want me to have 95% Valdez, and Cease is the one that actually gets a little bit of the ownership taken away from him, which is very interesting to me because, I mean, I guess because he's more expensive, but Cease always seems to have more upside. So I would imagine that I would have thought that it would have given me more Cease. Okay. So let's, I think also, by the way, what's going to happen is maybe because we're going to get some Houston stacks out of this. I don't think so. I think we're going to have all this Cardinals. But let's just see. Maybe not. Look at all this, all these players, like the highest known players. I mean, look at this. You have, in this build, I mean, you have a lot of Ramirez and Kwan and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the team setup. So, yeah, I mean, this is really not that big of a deal. We're getting 43% Cardinals, but then 38% Miami. Interesting. And then 37% Cleveland, 26% Detroit, 14% Pittsburgh, and then only 12% Colorado, which is fine, 10% White Sox, 10%. So this build, we're not getting any Arizona, which is weird, which is interesting, you know, and we're getting no Philly. And I would have imagined that these would be the teams that I would probably get some of in my non-St. Louis's, and 0 Houston. That's very surprising to me. So what I would do, right, in a situation like this, is I would say, okay, what here doesn't make sense to me? And listen, you're allowed to do that. Okay, like you're allowed to put your opinion over this. You know, now again, you are deviating from optimal. You're deviating from, you know, using your tools in some way, but you know that's okay. You know, you could use your brain to replace some stuff if you particularly just don't like a guy. You know, for example. And by the way, the Cardinals lineup is not in yet, so this is something to also keep in mind. Let's see how this breaks down. By the way, let's look at the stack situation here. So this is actually, we're getting 60% of these lineups are 5-3. This is out of 100. Looks like 100 lineups here. And then 5-2s, 4-3s, 4-4, 3-3. Okay, so it's a good mixture of those. Okay, that's one thing. And then let's look at, we'll see where the 5-man stacks come from. So it's actually pretty, you know, interesting. So almost as many stacks are coming from the Cleveland side as from the St. Louis side. Now there's something I should mention is that here's a neat little column on the right that I need to grasp a little better, but I think I understand this. So this is the stack exposure based on, the 100 lineups that I picked here. Okay. But here is the stack pool exposure. In other words, I built 500 lineups, and if we included all 500 lineups in this analysis, I would actually have 40% of my 5-man stacks. 40% of the stacks would be 5-man. Okay. But because I reduced it to only 100, it's only giving me 30%. So which means to me is that actually it's higher concentration of non-cardinal stacks up in the top. Like look at Cleveland. Cleveland, 22% stack exposure based on these 100 lineups, as opposed to 12% if I went to 500 lineups. So the Cleveland lineups, I'm interpreting that is actually better as we get to less lineups. Okay. So like if you were going to play more and more lineups, it would not be to get more Cleveland. If you played more and more lineups, it would be to get those other less likely cardinal combinations. Okay. All right, now let's look at how it breaks down 4-man. So in the 4-man stacks, not that many 4-mans. Remember, we do a lot of 5-3s, a lot of 5-2s. As you might imagine, this kind of just spreads it out a little bit. And of the 3-mans, it spreads it out a little bit. 2-mans, set better ones. And the next thing I want to do, I would look at player exposures and see if there's anything that is just something I'm just not willing to live with, right? Like, for example, sometimes you'll get a guy who's, say, 2K that you get 100% of just because he makes everything else work so well. I personally would rather not play 100% of anybody, especially a guy that rates to get a lot of zeros, right? As in a whole bunch of lineups. So I would probably kind of reduce that. But with this particular build, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So you have Gorman, 36%. That seems, in a weird way, like reasonable. In other words, I'm not saying that that's correct or whatever it is, but I'm just saying that that's an amount that I'll be willing to live with. Okay. So I wouldn't make any changes necessarily there. And then the other thing you have to look at is these money left on the table thing. Like, so you kind of scroll through this. You see my top lineup and leaves 1,200 on the table. And a bunch of them, look at that, 1,400 left on the table, another 1,400 left on the table, another 1,000 left on the table, 1,300 left on the table, So you have to figure out in your head whether that's something you're willing to live with. I personally have no problem living with that, regardless. I'm trusting the process in that there's no reason for me to force salary if it wouldn't have shown up anyway. But what you could do, let's just download these for a second. What you could do if you want, you could just rebuild. Let's do the same thing. And I'm curious how it's going to change. Let's say instead of this, let's put a minimum salary of, say, $49,200. Want to try that? Let's put $49,200, and we're going to do the same build. And just for fun, we'll see if anything changed. I wonder if you put a minimum of 49,200, if for whatever reason you'd get more Cardinals, more Cleveland, more whatever. Now, by the way, just so you know, for the future, if it feels as though I'm sharing my screen but I'm not showing anything, let me know next time, because I just realized this whole time I haven't been really sharing my screen. I thought I was sharing my screen and showing you exactly what was displayed, but apparently not. So I'm rerunning this with you guys watching it, and this is going to be. But I think I was pretty detailed of what's going on in those builds. But let's just take a look. And this, so just to summarize, we're doing a rebuild of this 100 lineups where we're actually putting a minimum of 49,200. And let's just see what that comes up with. So here, it's still the same. You still have a big amount of Valdez. You maybe have a little bit less Cease. And then what you end up with is actually a little more of these Cardinals exposures on an individual basis. see what the stack exposure looks like. Actually, overall stack exposure, it's 49% St. Louis, and then now 40% Miami. So Cleveland kind of goes down a little bit when you fill out the salary, which is interesting. And this gap between stack exposure and pool exposure kind of tightens a little bit. I think that's interesting. Well, this is actually very interesting. So Miami, wow. So this is the thing I was just trying to explain before. So you see that we built 100 lineups, right, out of a pool of 500. So we built 500. We're looking at 100. Miami is showing up in 41% of the lineups in this 100, where if you expanded to all 500, you're only what's up, Bobby? You're only picking up an extra handful. So Miami in this particular build is going up as much more powerful. So I want to pause this for a second. We just went through like a lot of technical stuff, Bobby, like doing builds and things like that. I went through who I liked or whatever.
Okay.
But I'm glad Bobby's here because now, Bobby, I want you to just kind of go right back to the beginning and tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're looking at the sites. I went through kind of ad nauseum, and I was just really doing some really kind of like offbeat kind of saber sim discussion here. So tell me what you like. Tell me what's going on.
I don't have a very strong takes or anything because I'm Cleveland and Pittsburgh are my main things. The problem is I've had literally nothing all like this morning it worked when I was doing my prep. And then I haven't even seen the lineups or anything out yet. I did get to check on the weather, but like I'm not only in an area where it's bad because it gets no service sometimes, it also has no like cell service at all. So if the internet's down, it's like nothing. So I've been like piecing it together as best I could. But I like the idea of a mini Pittsburgh to go with Cleveland. I like Houston, and then there's the obvious. You could use pieces of the other game, the the St. Louis Colorado game. But I'm not quite as high on that one as probably. Well, I want to be. I'm specifically trying not to be as high on that one as the field. For pitching, I don't think that there's any special reason why you need to get overly creative unless you need the money. If you need savings, I'd say Plesac and Gibson are your best options. And if you don't, I would say that Valdez and Cease make a totally logical combination. You have consistency with upside. That's pretty much what I got here. So I do this too much, and Merrill Kelly's been much better this year, but I have to say that I like the idea of taking a few of the lefty bats just in a really low-owned spot. The guys who I'm using the most of in that are Cruz. We don't have the lineup yet, but assuming that it goes the way we think it will, Cruz, Reynolds, and you could either use Marcano for a value play or Gamble in the outfield. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I don't even mind if you want to play Madras. I would like to see where Cruz is hitting in the lineup before I commit to that fully. That's the one thing I would say. But I think it's a good way to get different, and I think you'll have zero ownership on it. And I still think that Merrill Kelly, even though he's improved, is not nearly as good as he gets credit for. And it's like one team you can play on a 6-game slate, where I'm not saying you should fully stack them, but everybody's reasonably priced, and they're all going to be like 2 to 4% owned. So I'm into that idea to try to get a little different on this slate. And I think you could even, if you were going to play a full St. Louis stack, sort of like I was saying with Miami yesterday, I think that would be a good secondary team for you to use because they're going to get overlooked.
I want to ask you what you think of my overall take on how to deal with the Cardinals today, and tell me what you think of it, whether I'm overreaching or whatever it is. So what I told everybody is what I would suggest with the Cardinals is that, or this whole slate in general, is that if you want to play the Cardinals, there are 2 ways to do it. Number one is to play neither Cease nor Valdez. Okay. The second way to do it would be to pair your secondary stack. Use your secondary stack, have either Kansas City or Texas, because they're going to be going against those two pitchers, right? So either Cardinals with, Texas or Kansas City, or Cardinals by themselves without either of those pitchers, and otherwise you're too chalky if you want to play Cardinals. If you want to play anybody else but the Cardinals, then you can probably do whatever you want. But if you want to play the Cardinals, I thought those were decent ways to do it. Is that overthinking
Yeah,
it? Or
no, I think that's fine. I don't think you necessarily need to take the hitters against Cease and Valdez because, like we said, I mean, you're talking about Cease, who's given up. What has he? Has he given up more than a run in his last 15 starts? And Valdez, who's got the longest streak in recent memory of anybody with quality starts. So you're probably not going to want to. You're not going to get probably a ton out of those offenses. Of course, it's baseball; anything could happen. But these guys have been consistently shutting everybody down. So I would rather take a team like that's why I'm a little bit higher on the Pittsburgh thing. I do think Cleveland's also getting overlooked. I might even be a little too far off the board with my slate today. I've got one player in my lineup who's projected to be double-digit owned of anybody, and that's Jose Ramirez. So I think it's a good general strategy. Yeah, I like what you're saying. I'm going to try to go through this one more time and see if I'm not, because I have no Cardinals in my lineup at all today, in my lineups at all. And I feel like that might be a little bit overreaching. Maybe I don't need to go quite so far. I also don't think you need to fully stack. And that's another thing you could do with the Cardinals or Rockies is use them as a 3-man and then find another 3-man or a 4-man or even a 5-man that you like in the Cleveland, Houston side of things. Although I'm looking at Houston real quick and I just want to double check. I mean, Houston is getting fairly low owned, right, for the spot that they're in. I just think
because Alvarez is out.
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. And it's a lefty, but I mean, I don't know. I think Houston is way too low owned. So I would make my primary stacks Houston and Cleveland today anyway. And the problem is it's great hitting weather in Colorado again. I do think you'll get a little bit lower ownership on the Rockies than you will the Cardinals. But like the Cardinals projection makes it like almost impossible to fully stack them and be profitable. I mean, they have to all get there and you have to get the right 5 mix because they're all going to be so owned. It's just really, really hard to do that profitably, in my opinion. And we don't have a lineup yet for the Cardinals, I don't believe.
No, we don't.
And we don't have a lineup for the Pirates either, which that's going to dictate some things. But
So when you said you're going to fade the Cardinals, is part of it because it's marquee and he's like decent against righties and stuff like that, or it's just because of the ownership and stuff?
What's that?
The reason fading the Cardinals, do we actually think the marquee can hold them down, or is it just an ownership play?
Yeah, he can. I mean, the Cardinals haven't been anything. They scored 9 runs last night. Dodgers scored 8 runs. The Braves scored 8 runs. It's not like it just happened to be the way that some of the runs were scored or whatever.
I played 50% Dodgers last night.
Yeah, and the Dodgers it just wasn't the same type of scoring with the home runs from the right guys unless you played Chris Taylor.
Yep.
It's just one of those things. I don't know. But I like the idea of like, and I want to address the question. This is a big question. This happens every time Will Owsley is asking this one. Do you just fully fade or do you use pieces? You can always use pieces. This is the dumbest thing that people say all the time. And it makes no sense for a baseball game why we would ever say stack or fade the game other than weather. Weather is the only thing that should ever dictate stacking or fading, in my opinion. Right, Sheets? Like, I don't see, it's such a ridiculous theory. Like in football, you can stack or fade again because of weather, or maybe you're worried about a team's running game or something. But like, people always say, I either stack or fade cores. That's just a really, really bad strategy. And it's really, really lazy and it's really bad. And it's what everybody else says. It's what most guys come out here and say all the time. It makes no sense. It's completely illogical. You can try to find your favorite bats and try to play pieces where they fit, especially when there's value in cores, because back in the day, there used to be no value in cores. Everybody got raised at least $2K in their prices. Now you have Cardinals that are still like Nootbaar might be batting 6th at 2.2K. That's fine to throw him in as a value piece if you're using a different stack. I have no issue with that. You know what I mean? Why would we have to think only stack or fade?
I mean, I sort of get it. Only because it depends. Listen, it depends how you play. Like, see this. That's
a 150 max type of mentality.
Well, what I'm saying is that I like the I like the OCD pretty stacks. You know what I mean? I like the 5 threes in general. You know what I mean? I like the I like the 5-2s in general. So
But why not use it as your 2 or your 3 then?
What's that?
So, but what? So why wouldn't it be viable as your 2 or your 3?
No, it could. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is that they could totally be viable as my 2 and my 3. You know what I mean? So I have no problem. Like if I don't want to play a big chalk to say, okay, I don't want any 5-mans with them. I think that's totally reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you could say, well, if I'm not going to play 5-man, then I'm out. I agree with that. I think that's I won't say it's lazy. I just think it's bad. You know what I mean? That's one way to reduce risk, and not reduce risk is one way to reduce ownership without completely throwing your projection out the window. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, and once you get more advanced, like I said, like Bobby, what you do sometimes is you just, well, okay, I'm going to play one guy from that game. I don't know who it's going to be necessarily, but I'll just make sure to have one. You know, and that's kind of neat, because not that many people are going to do that. You want to know why? Because people are saying, I'm either stacking or fading.
Exactly.
And there's so many games where, you know, like the Dodgers, like games where one or two guys get there, but as a stack, for whatever reason, it doesn't all come together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that went stack or fade, they're out, you know?
Right.
But the people that said, okay, it's still a good environment for the Cardinals. You know, if I don't feel like playing a 5-man chalky stack along with, you know, alongside the rest of 50% of the universe, maybe I'll play like a one-off of who knows. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll play a one-off of Gorman or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if he gets a home run, because, you know, listen, it's in Coors, it's very possible to get a home run, but for whatever reason the rest of the team doesn't pull together. You say, okay, at least I got myself exposure without you know, playing a 5-man stack, without being so stubborn as to say I'm out.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, here's an example. Okay, so here's my here's one you could do. Like here's a bill that we've been working with till you got here, right? So here you have like 5-man stacks. I have 35% Cardinals. Okay. So what I can do if I want, I mean, based off of a 500 lineup pool, I can immediately do this. I could say I want 0 5-man stacks of St. Louis. Boom. Okay. Does that mean I'm now fading St. Louis? No. Now I still get, look, you'll see right off the bat, I get a 3-man over here. You know, I got like a couple of 4-man. I have a whole bunch of 3-man stacks. So I didn't completely fade the Cardinals, but I'm still kind of different because I don't have as many 5-man stacks as everybody else does, you know, and that's definitely something you could do.
Right. Exactly.
What do you think of Miami today, by the way? These guys actual baseball players on their team?
Yeah, there's some talent there. Some. I mean, they're minor league guys, but they're guys who were going to be in the major league soon enough anyway. I think they're fine. I think it's fine as a stack for sure. Kyle Gibson is not overly impressive. I just want to point out though that, and people were saying this yesterday about Miami, and that's sort of what got me like just looking at Miami's just game logs for their team overall. I mean, this team hasn't scored over 3 runs in 8 games. They've scored 4 runs one time. They scored 4 runs before that, and then they 7, 3, 2, 1, 6, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. It's like a Morse code looking at their game log. It's really hard to justify too much. The reason I liked them a little bit yesterday was because the stolen base upside against Syndergaard for a couple of their guys. But I only like them as a mini, and they kind of almost got there a couple times. They had the bases loaded a couple times with 1 out, and it didn't get anything through. Even though I think they might have, did they end up winning? I don't know if they won. I think they lost the game, but yeah, I think that they're as a mini stack. I certainly can't full stack teams like that. I mean, I guess on this kind of a state you could, but it's really hard to justify when they just can't score any runs.
And who do you like more between Valdez and Cease, if anybody?
I think Cease is I think you play just for maximum upside, and I think Cease is the higher upside guy in general. Just he's got the best strikeout stuff. But I think that I probably am just going to pair them together in all my lineups. I don't think that I need to do enough with I can do it. Like I might throw in one. You know what I'll do? I'll throw in one Gibson probably and Plesac combination, and other than that, I'll probably go all Cease. Cease and Valdez.
And what about Colorado as a team?
I think Colorado's, I think that they're still going to be owned,
Yeah.
but I don't think they'll be owned quite as much. But I do like Colorado quite a bit. And let's see, Diaz, right? Oh, no, who's catching for Colorado today? I didn't even grab that. It's Servin. He's got a little bit of power, that guy. Yeah, I like the idea of Colorado a little bit better. So combining a Colorado with like a Cleveland or a Houston, I think was better than playing St. Louis with anybody. Because it's just St. Louis. It's just ownership. I do like St. Louis, and yes, I think Marquis also has the stuff where he can, he still is going to occasionally have decent enough games. Although a lot of his numbers look really, really bad this year. But I don't know. I'm good with. I'm good with. I really like the Cleveland and Houston side of things today. I just want to keep straight sending that home. I think they're really strong.
Cleveland
and Houston.
Yeah.
Nick Fortes is. Why is he 4,700?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
What do they have in the system that don't know?
I just don't know. I don't know.
That's crazy.
I kind of like the Pittsburgh idea.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the White Sox.
Yeah, the White Sox make perfect sense in a logical world, and they just I don't know. Maybe I'm just crossing them off too much, but they just cannot hit right-handed pitching. And to be honest with you,
is Greinke even a right-hander? I mean, like.
No, but I mean, if game log watching the White Sox lines are very similar to watching Miami's lines 3-3-2-0-0-2. It's really pretty gross. But yeah, Houston, Colorado.
You know what I think I'm going to do? By the way, to finish off my comment on how I think I should play the slate. You know what I mean? Those different options. I think what I'm going to end up doing is a combination of what we just discussed in the last 20 minutes, which are probably going to go chalky in the pitching, like the Valdez and C's, and then it's going to be the some variation of Cardinal fading. You know what I mean? I'm not going to play Cardinals with say KC and the other one I suggested. Instead, I'm just going to fade the Cardinals a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly going to have no Cardinals in 5-man. And hopefully that's enough. You know, I'll tell you with C's Valdez pairing, I'm probably going to need like a sheet slate. You know what I mean? Like to get there. I'm probably going to need a low scoring slate because if you play the two of them together, I mean, you don't really get that great hitting. Together. So you're kind of hoping that those two both put up 30, you know what I mean? And then the rest of your team's kind of body English is like 45 or something like that, you know, and then maybe like 120, 130 is enough or something like that. Maybe that's the plan. And you know, Pittsburgh and Miami's and those teams can put up those kind of numbers, you know. Can you get some of these like in Cleveland? I mean, look, Cleveland can actually put up some runs. That's the one thing I was describing earlier about like 20 minutes ago. The difference in some of these values, like you could play Miami, you could play Detroit or whatever, but teams like Cleveland, they can actually score. You know, like they actually have some hitters. I mean, never mind Ramirez, who could probably out hit the entire Miami team. You know, seriously. I mean, you get Quan who can play. You know, you got Jimenez, you got Rosario. I mean, there are guys that can do stuff.
Jimenez, Rosario, really strong. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree. Quan is probably my least interesting one, even though he's like a good hitter, but it's just really just doesn't have the power. But that's fine on these slates. You're not necessarily going to win with, like you said, like you don't necessarily need 200 tonight to win, unless goes
right.
And then I do love I do like the Astros lineup. It's very strange to me because I'm not really sure why Gurriel, they're so hell-bent on batting him second in this lineup and Diaz fifth today. But like, I love Mancini and Pena down at the bottom of the order at like no ownership. Just seems way too cheap for those guys. Would like to get a lineup out at some point for Pittsburgh and St. Louis.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because I want to play O'Neal Cruz, but I'm not going to play him if he's batting eighth. I'll play him if he's at the top of the lineup. But yeah, and by the way, I know other people want to play Merrill Kelly. Absolutely fine with it. Even though I'm playing the other side of that,
I'm not fine with it.
I'm not doing it, but I understand if you want to. he's been like much better this year at a lot of things. I bet he's going to regress at some point. I mean, he dominated a couple starts. He looked amazing against Atlanta and San Francisco, but I don't know. And maybe I'm just being stubborn and that he hasn't turned the corner. I'm not fully stacking Pittsburgh, but 1 to 3 guys from Pittsburgh at no ownership certainly sounds good to me. All right, let's see if there's any other thoughts in here. Hey, thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate the kind words. And I guess we're just waiting on lineups now, Sheet. So what are your weird things? Do you have any weird plays today?
No, like I said, like right now, it's
the White Sox are going to be low owned, which is
the White Sox in Pittsburgh. Like those are my weirder ones. And I guess consider Philadelphia weird. I don't know. I guess Cleveland's going to be a pretty, I don't want to say chalky, but a pretty obvious pivot, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? I mean, who knows what people do? But the Cleveland stack looks pretty juicy. And you know what you should probably do? You should probably dude, this freaking Nick Forte. He's like projected like Johnny Bench. What's going on with this guy? Like you were saying, what do people know here?
I mean, I know that there's a talent, like there's some talent there, but like I don't. I mean, from what I've heard, but I don't know. I haven't even that. I like have to double check my.
Maybe just the position's really poor today.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, like Salvador Perez. Oh, he's against C's. What's his name? Real Muto's not in.
Yeah.
I guess who is there? Grandal. He's 3,600.
Yeah, and this is a good spot for him. OPS on the season. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It is weird. It is weird to see that out of nowhere. But yeah, so I mean, I just feel like this slate is like it's just really easy to pay for the best pitchers. For me, even if unless you're stacking the Rockies specifically. I mean, these guys just don't give up any runs. Yeah. Zelensky's again Morse code 11-0-0-0-1-1-1-0-0-0-0-0-0-0. That's pretty nuts. He went 5 starts in a row without giving up a run, and hasn't given up more than 1 in 11 starts. That's crazy. He's gonna win the Cy Young.
Yeah, I'll play this Fortes guy as part of like Miami stacks, I guess, but.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's it's
a stupid catcher position, I guess.
Yeah, it is a weird position. I mean, I'm using Luke Maley, who can't hit at all, which feels really wrong.
Right, and this is what we got, right?
He's like, and my argument against him always why I can't play him is because he can't hit a home run because he hadn't hit one all season, and then he hit one in his last game. So maybe he gets a little hot streak.
In case anybody cares, Seth Beer is out.
Seth Beer is out. Okay. How come I didn't get that update? Did you have any good starts in anything with your golf sheets?
Oh, it's 12:30. No, yeah.
You never know. There might be a guy who I don't know. I didn't know if you played Mark Leishman or whoever it is.
Oh, is he playing? He's doing well.
He was leading the thing. JT Poston is 5 under through like in second place.
One thing that's interesting is that look, it looks like it's going to be another 2,500 deal today. this week, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it'll even out a little bit, but yeah, it does seem like it's going to be a bird. I don't like the birdie fests. I like when it's
JJ Spawn in first place.
Did he get up there?
I got a lineup with him. I got one.
These guys.
He's 0.4% owned. It's going to be one of those 6,500 guys, like you said. I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's going to be one of them.
I mean, he's 7,300, but I like my JT Poston one. That was one of the ones I was committed to.
Yep.
And you said that somebody else smart said it, and that was good enough. So that's why I put a little extra highlight on.
True. I'll tell you who's not off to a good start is Mr. Scheffler.
Wow, it's weird. I didn't even know that he knew what plus looked like.
Yeah, that's not good.
He just birdied 2 in a row though.
He'll end up winning, I'm sure.
To get back to +1, but I was like, oh my God, Scheffler, and they had him earlier at like 30% to make the cut at +3, and I was like, That's ridiculous.
Siwoo Kim
more
-5. That's strong. Pendrith -5. That's good.
Yeah.
Hatton was off to a rocket start. Then he kind of,
He's 4 under.
He's 4 under. Yeah, he was 3 under after 3. Literally 3 under after 3.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm excited to actually have real
golf. Now -4. Yeah, this is I like this when guys put up numbers before like Rory gets out there,
Before Rory gets out there. Yes,
No,
I committed it very hard to John Rahm and Justin Thomas. I know you were on the Rory thing. I didn't go over there very much. I love Rory, so I always hate not playing him. But
Keegan Bradley -4. There's your Poston -5.
The only time I ever do well with Keegan Bradley is
when someone else plays him.
When someone else plays him. No, it's my problem with him is that like it's always impossible to find like a logical reason to play him exactly, just because of the way he plays. But like at the same time, if no one's gonna play him, is the only time I'm gonna play him. So anytime he does well and anybody owns him, I'm dead. Can we please get a Cardinals lineup?
I actually have one. I have a couple of lineups, maybe 1 or 2. No, I think it just looks like 1. Hadn't had a single guy start yet. Like,
most of mine have. Oh yeah, not one of your.
Not a single guy. Yeah,
that's crazy.
2.
These Diamondbacks are pretty popular today too. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad play. I just think that it's a little more ownership than I'd want to eat up.
Yeah, so so obviously there's no live tonight. I'm not going live. Was it 2 game slate or something like that?
I didn't even know if it was 2.
Yeah, maybe nothing.
I thought they were not playing because of the football thing.
What football thing?
Like the what's it called? The kickoff classic, whatever they call it.
The Hall of Fame game or something like that?
Games. Was that?
Oh, I'd say Hall of Fame game or something. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Aaron Wise -5. There's a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good, a lot of these model guys are like off to good starts here.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, I guess I'm gonna fly. Oh, what does feature say? This is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So feature is saying I want to try to interpret this. Who is the obvious number 2 pitcher for DraftKings? There's a lot to unpack with that.
It's not a question. It's Valdez.
Oh, okay.
Number 2, you don't need to spend down at pitching. Like you really don't. I can't find a way that you can do it if you want to. But I think that taking the 2 best pitchers usually is the best idea. I seriously think it's like a flaw in a lot of people's games when they try too much to just pay up for one guy and pay down for another. It just doesn't make any sense. Just play the 2 best plays if you can. And with the soft pricing that we have today and all of this value, I just don't see why we wouldn't play the best 2 pitchers personally. Even yesterday, everybody was saying, "Oh, it should be Bumgarner and Verlander it should be your cash game things." All the guys in our RG were talking about that. I'm like, no, it should be Verlander and Alcantara as your cash game guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't playing any Bumgarner.
No, but I mean, even for cash though, they were saying that it was the right play. Like, and I'm like, well, that can't be the right play because then you're embracing high variance,
and you don't need the salary, like you were saying.
You just don't need it. You really don't need it. It's not like the old days where it was tough to fit people in and get that. You just
all those cheap cards, they all got there. Like Newtbar smashed, right? I mean,
the highest scoring players were the cheapest ones.
Right. I mean, like,
so you don't need to go out of your way not to do it. 3, 4, 5, 8. So I'm doing something you would not like, Sheets. I have a
3-1-1-1-1-1.
No, I got a 5-man Cleveland stack, but I'm turning it into a 4-2-1 because
like a 4-3-2-1 or something like that.
No, it's because like I just can't. It's very hard for me to click Kwan's name over Kyle Tucker.
It is, isn't it?
Even in a lefty spot, I really like Kyle Tucker, and So I'm just like,
Well, you know
I'll
what?
take
I talked about this before,
home
just
run
before you
upside.
got here. It's one of the things that, again, you have to get used to. If you ever really just relied on SaberSim and didn't like put your own brain in it, is that especially on FanDuel, we talked about this before, if you set it for like to give you correlative lineups, you'll end up with these weird things where you have 4 4s because they look pretty, and you'll lose 2,000 on the table because they'd rather you play Steve Kwan than say like Mike Trout. You know what I mean?
Or Aaron Judge.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Because oh, it fills out my 4-man Cleveland stack so nicely. Why would I want to play Aaron Judge or Mike Trout for 2,000 more, even though I can afford it when I can make a pretty 4-man stack that that with including Stephen Kwan or some 2K guy that's has literally a 3% chance to outscore Judge or Trout. You know what I mean?
Right. I hear you. Yeah, that's pretty funny. All right. So if you're going to go, I'm probably going to bounce as well. I think we covered everything. The only thing that's going to matter is how the lineups come out for today. But I also think that, again, I'm just going to say this, correlation, all that's fine and well and all that stuff on DraftKings. If you like a stack, go with it. I like Cleveland, so go with it. I think this is another slate where you could take your favorite bats. The only problem is like you don't have an Alvarez or a Judge or somebody like that who could hit 2 home runs that stands out like as a really obvious one.
I wanted to say something else. This is totally random. You know what? Everybody's got their lineups in if they're just hanging out, whatever it is, I presume.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something else that's kind of going around the internet a little bit. I haven't mentioned it. I'm mentioning it only because I have it up on I have like 2 monitors. I have like one TV up here that actually has like some Little League World Series stuff going on, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a video that Barstool put out of I don't know if you saw this. Some pitcher or whatever it is, some 12-year-old like hit some other kid. Like it looked like the kid was dead, right?
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah. And the kid went out there to first base, and then he felt bad that the pitcher felt bad. He went over and hugged him. And of course, what's his name? Poor name was like, these guys are soft. These kids are soft. This is BS. You know, you got to go for the throat. This is ridiculous. I mean, this is a soft society, and this is what's wrong with the world. You know what I mean? I can only hope that he's doing it for clicks, but I think he actually felt that way. In any case, so it's this whole thing about these 12-year-olds. They should compete. They shouldn't be soft, and this, that, and the other thing. It's in this day and age. I have to tell you, man. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe it's with because I had kids. I have kids that went through this too. I was watching the other day. Like Massapequa. They're a team from New York, and they were in the semifinals of like the regionals here. And there was this 12-year-old on the freaking mound, and they were up like 6 runs with like he had to get 1 out. Okay, and then he walked a guy, and he walked another guy, and then he had a single, and you could see on his freaking face that he's going to kill himself, this pitcher, right? And the manager goes out, tries to settle him down or whatever it is, and eventually he kind of got out of it, and they won, and he just kind of walked off the field. For me, I mean, having kids that went through this, there's just a lot of pressure on these freaking kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt so bad. I feel so bad for all of these kids that could go through this because, first of all, 70% of the reason they're doing this because their parents are because their parents
right.
anyway.
Right.
And they're putting in all this freaking pressure and all this stuff. So any time that you could reduce the competition, as far as I'm concerned, out there, the better for me. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age.
No, but I agree with that totally, man. And it's also nice. Like, I mean, sportsmanship is a thing. Like, it doesn't mean you're soft because you're a good sport. Like, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was remember there was one that people were saying the All-Star game wasn't serious enough because Barry Bonds, when he had it's his best year, he had a home run in the first inning of the All-Star game and was one. And what's his name? The center fielder used to be for Minnesota, was one of the best center fielders defensively of all time. He robbed him of a home run, and they went and like high-fived in between innings, and people are going,
right.
Why you can't take this game serious? And I was like, no, that's just cool. I mean, it is an exhibition anyway, and that was a cool thing to see,
And who was it also? I think it was McGuire. Somebody hit like a big home run, like a 60th home run or 70th, and the guy at first base like gave him like a tap on the butt as he walked by or whatever it is, or whatever that was. Like, what are you doing, man? You just give him a home run. Just relax. Just relax.
It's all this. It's very ridiculous. Some of the toxic masculinity, especially the Barstool guys, are ridiculous with it. All right, Cheats. Well, I hope you have a good day. Make it successful. I'm going to take care of some practical things because I've got some time today. So
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. All right. So it's 1:00 right now.
Yeah.
When's the last game scheduled? Last game scheduled is 3:40. All right. I will tell you what. If it is 6 p.m. Eastern and there's a sweat, I will be live. How about that?
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
I will try to join you if my Wi-Fi works.
Well, right. Well, let me tell you something. If you're live in something good, you're gonna get to a Wi-Fi. We're gonna do this. Okay. So,
okay. Yeah. It's the
so
only problem.
I'll keep an eye on the
30 minutes away from
lottery
you.
and the big. Are you playing the whatever 555?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll keep an eye on that lobby. I'll keep an eye on the lottery. And if like by that last game or whatever it is, like the third inning or whatever, and listen, if anybody here in our chat is like live for something good, post in there. Listen, Mrs. Sheets doesn't know that there's no games tonight, so I can tell her that I'm going live up 6 to 7, whatever, and we can just be sweating, so it's fine. So let me know, but I'm only going to do that if there's something to sweat. So post in the Discord that you're deep in something, and we'll totally sweat the last couple innings of that. But
sounds good.
All right. Other than that, good luck everybody, and I'll catch up to you later.
Good luck, everybody.